Hello and welcome back to the Alizee Yeezy Show. I'm your host, Alizee Yeezy, and today I'm joined by Rachel Oates.
Hi.
And this is for episode 2 of the Great Gilmore Girl Rewatch, is what I'm going to call it. Very catchy title. For the visual listeners, the visual watchers, not listeners, you might see I'm wearing a hat. That is because my hair is a disgrace. And look, I'm going swimming later, so why would I wash my hair when I'm going? It's counterproductive to do so. So here I am in a hat.
I don't have that excuse. I just have this hair. This is just
how
who I am, okay?
how have you been? What have you been up to before we get into it?
Oh God, this Colin Hoover video. I'm exhausted by it. I thought this would be a quick one and I could just like smash it out and it would be really good. And now my script is like 70 pages long and I have so many thoughts and so much to say. And I really, really hate Colleen Hoover.
Have you told the audience which book you're doing?
um well, I imagine by the time this comes out, my video will be out. So it's on It
Yeah.
Ends With Us. I've only mentioned it so far on my Discord server, and I've been having like a little rant over there. But it's just, oh, there's so much to it. It's a book that should have so much potential because it's something that needs talking about. It's like domestic violence and this idea that like someone can be so charming in the beginning and you don't see anything wrong with them and then kind of take over your life. And there's all these like subtle signs of abuse, and you have like different cycles of abuse and stuff with her parents and her and all this stuff. And it should be a really important topic, but it's just so poorly executed. I think it does more harm than good. It's like the bit that I'm working on now, I'm going through what people have said about it online, and I'm finding all these TikToks of people like cosplaying as victims of domestic abuse with like fake bruises and cuts on their face. There's people making jokes about him pushing Lily downstairs and being like, "Oh, I've got merch from the book," and then showing a picture of their staircase and stuff like that. I'm like, come on. And then there's all these people defending Ryle and being like, oh, he can change. What he did wasn't that bad. I mean, he does actually love her, so it's okay. And I'm like, stop it. Oh,
Yeah.
I've been like a little bundle of anger these last few days. Haven't I, Kyra? Yes. Bless her.
Which is funny because I think a year ago I did a video where I read like 4 or so viral TikTok books, and it ends with us was part of that video. And I don't really remember too much of what I said because it wasn't that much of a memorable or interesting, but I'd never heard of Colleen Hoover before I
Yeah.
got to that book. The only thing I really recall saying about it is it took me like a third or maybe halfway through to realize it was about domestic abuse. It took me getting
Yeah.
to like the second act of it to realize that's what the story was about, because I didn't really see what
Yeah.
the blurb doesn't describe anything, and if you look at
No,
the front cover it looks like it's just
none of the
romance and stuff. So
marketing says
yeah.
it. Yeah. Yeah, there was a huge issue with the pacing of the book I found as well. So
Mm.
you have like the first 50%, which is just like smutty love story with too many sex scenes. And then all of a sudden he like flips and it's like 45% about the abuse. And then the last 5% is her actually like getting away and like, you know,
Mm.
leaving him essentially. And I'm like, I wish there'd been more on that. I want to see like her recovery afterwards. I want to see that like strength it took her to actually leave. I want to see the trauma it caused and like the long-term effects of that. I want to see her talking to other survivors. I want to, that's the bit that I think is important, not this like, you know, whatever it is, 200 pages of like, oh, and then we had sex here, and then we had sex here, and then his mum called him and we had sex again. That's literally one chapter. They have sex, his mum calls him, they have sex again.
Yeah, and I remember at the time thinking about the ending, like, is it a good idea that you've had a kid with this guy, and like he has partial custody, so he's
Yeah.
taking care of this kid when you're not around to supervise, and this is a man who tried to sexually assault her, beat her
Yeah.
up several times. It was just, I don't know, and because I hadn't read Colleen Hoover at that point, I remember just not thinking that much about it in general. But now that I have read Colleen Hoover and I can see that this is a pattern of behavior of her
Yeah.
writing, even though in this case the man is actually meant to be abusive, because in all the other cases he's meant to be a love interest, but he
Yeah.
just comes across as abusive. I think it'd be interesting to revisit that at some
Mm.
point. Now I'm more acquainted with her nonsense.
This is actually one of my big parts towards the end of the video. I meant to do this little like, you know, like a little 300 word conclusion. It's now like 5 pages long of like all these
Mm.
thoughts I'm having. Um, but I've gone on this bit of a rant about how in the first chunk of the book that's meant to be just like the love story part of it, there's all these red flags that Ryle has before he gets physically abusive. There's other signs of abuse. There's like the
He
way
beats up the
he'll
chair.
yeah, that's their first meeting. He smashes
Yes.
up the chair. He's controlling with her. He's always wanting to know where she is. He's just turning up to her house uninvited. He does things like buying a house without telling her for them both and making her move out of her apartment and stuff. He'll grab her by the wrists. He locks her in a room. Like why do all of Colleen Hoover's men lock women in rooms? Every single one I've read has a man locking a woman in a room. It's ridiculous. Anyway, so there's all these red flags, and I'm like, okay, great. Like she's showing these subtle signs of abuse. This is brilliant. Except she also does that in the other love interest who's meant to be the good guy. He has all the same signs. He locks her in a room. He grabs her by the wrists and pulls her around. He does all these like weird, jealous, controlling things. In Verity, Jeremy does the same things. He locks her in the room. He's physically violent. He grabs her by the wrists and pulls her around. There's no distinguishing features between the abusive men in Colleen's books and the love interests and the heroes and the men we're meant to be rooting for. It's like she doesn't know what a healthy relationship looks like. So all her romances come out as toxic. And it's really, really unhealthy.
I've noticed that of all the Colleen Hoover books I've read so far, the men, if they're not locking women in rooms, they forcibly barricade them in rooms by standing in the way of them trying to exit. Like, which I do genuinely think that it's her kink. A guy getting in her way, not letting her leave a doorway. I think it's Colleen Hoover's kink.
Which is kind of like hard for me because that's one of the things that my abuser used to do to me. And it's what he did to his other victims as well. He would stand in doorways and not let us leave rooms. He would corner us and like, pardon you, baby. He would corner us and not let us move like a very small certain area of the room and stuff. And it was all about power and control and keeping us in our place. And it was terrifying. And like the last day I ever left him, he'd locked me in his house without a way to get out. Like it, so when you see these like love interests doing that exact same thing, it's I don't really like to use the word triggering, but it's a little bit triggering. You know, I don't know. If I hadn't known what this book was about going in, it would have really messed me up. Like with my history of everything that I've been through, like not just with Johnny, but with like my parents and my brother as well, and all that stuff. Like using domestic violence as a shocking twist isn't appropriate, you know. Anyway, this woman.
How do you do what you do and compartmentalize that away then whilst you're doing it? Because I guess I don't know if it's similar, but I guess it's like if I'm watching something and everyone just suddenly gets drunk, you know, or if they don't usually start doing drugs in TV shows or anything, but if there's an instance of people doing drugs, you know, like Skins, that tends to get me a little bit like, you know.
Have you watched anything like Euphoria?
No, because I thought it was just like the US sort of kind of not version of Skins, but sort of, you know.
It kind of is in a way. But no, I'd be interested to see what you think of like the portrayal of drugs in that, because on the one hand they kind of glamorize it, but on the other they show the really like dark, messed up side of it as well. So I don't know how you'd deal with that, but I don't know. It's hard for me. I don't think I could have made content like this 18 months, 2 years ago. I think I would have struggled too much then. But now I'm in a healthy place where like I feel okay calling it out, but it's still hard. Like reading this book was like kind of emotional for me. And like, you know, I've been ranting to you the last few days. Kieran's had these like long, like minutes and minutes and minutes of voice notes of me just being like, oh my God, you'll not believe what she wrote. And then she did this, and then she did this. And can you believe this character? And he's like, I know, you said this. And I'm like, I know. And he's like, he doesn't really care probably, but he's getting invested for me. And I appreciate that about him. And he's like, bad man, what a bad man.
These women who write this stuff, I don't know if it's unfair of me to think, but I can't help but wonder what their marriages are like. You know, Stephanie Meyer's marriage to her husband, Colleen Hoover's marriage to her husband. I have to wonder, because if this is what they think romantic love is, and in a lot of ways, I think I guess I think Colleen Hoover's worse than Stephanie Meyer, but
Oh,
I
absolutely.
can't articulate why, but I do think that she's worse. I feel like I
I
don't
think the
know.
sheer volume of harmful things Colleen Hoover's done outweighs anything Stephanie Meyer's done.
Mm,
And like she has some really, really messed up stuff. Like I was like flicking through some of her other books and like skim reading bits for like a comparative bit in my video. And like there's this one that's just like every chapter you have this man raping his girlfriend, like in every
mm,
other chapter, or like being abusive to her and stuff. And again, it's marketed as romance because she leaves him for another guy. I'm like, why?
mm.
So I don't know. But I was gonna say something else. No, I don't know. Forget it. There
There's
was a
also
point in there
something
somewhere,
that,
but
like, personally, I don't like about Colleen Hoover as a
mm,
person. I feel like this is a bit unfair to
yeah.
say, but I also don't give a shit because I don't respect her. I don't like, from what I've seen of her, I do not like her as a person. Whereas Stephanie
Mhm.
Bayer, and this is so weird, but there's something that I do kind of like about her. Like Stephanie Meyer, there's something,
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. Like, I read her Wikipedia page for Breaking Dawn and finding out that she's a teetotaler. She doesn't even drink caffeine. There's something about that I think is so um on the other end of the spectrum from my previous life that I don't
Mm.
know, she kind of fascinates me, and I feel like I could talk to her without insulting her, at least, you
Yeah.
know, consciously. I wouldn't want to consciously insult her,
Mhm.
but Colleen Hoover, I think, is just well, I guess because like Stephanie Meyer has always risen above her criticism and just ignored it, and she's ignored that E.L. James made
Yeah.
a sexy porno of Twilight. She's ignored all this stuff, right? But
Mhm.
Colleen Hoover is so insecure that I don't know if you've heard of him. This guy called Caleb on YouTube. He was the first person to call Colleen Hoover out for her awful fiction years ago,
Ooh. I
and
don't,
he
but good
was,
on him.
yeah, well, he was a teenager at the time. He'll say he was
Mhm.
young. And Colleen Hoover really got the hump and tried to get her, weaponize her fan base into attacking his video and all this kind of nonsense. It's like, grow the fuck up, you
She's like a
weirdo.
40-year-old woman. Stop it.
In it. Yeah, so something that I just really don't respect or like
Yeah.
about her as a person.
Sorry, I remember the thing I was going to say, and it's bad. So you know her like history of like her dad was abusive to her mum and stuff like that, and that's why she wrote
Mm.
this book and whatever. We don't know what's going on in her own marriage, but her own son has been accused of sexually assaulting other women, and she's like standing by the son defending him when these like women have tried to be like, yeah, but he did this to me. She's just like blocking them on social media and being really petty about it and stuff, and it's like, what is wrong with her?
She's a boy mum.
She is.
She's a boy mum.
Yeah.
They're the worst. So
Yeah.
those women, they're the real gender traitors. The boy mums.
I've kind of got a bit about that in this video, but I didn't know like how deep I wanted to go with it because again, like Ryle, the abuser in this stupid name. Sorry, anyone called Ryle. Um, but also the names. Sorry. Um, he's got this weird thing where he's like, oh yeah, I love my mum. I talk to her every day, blah blah blah. Like I tell her everything. I do all this stuff, and the mum's like, oh, I love my son so much. I'm like, yeah, he's a spoiled brat. That's why he's like the
Mm,
way he is. Hate
yeah.
it.
Speaking of things we hate, spoiled brats, annoying, stupid writers, I've been doing Anision's autobiography.
Oh God, yeah. How is it?
It's the most miserable thing I've ever done. It's for whatever reason, it's only 150 pages. There's a PDF of it online. They shared it on
Hmm.
Reddit, so you can just grab the PDF.
I'm
It's like a
I'm
Google Drive file
surprised
for
he's
free.
done enough to fill 150 pages.
Oh, well, consider well, I think he's just making a lot of it up because every other paragraph is about how he fancied a girl or how he dated a girl in the seventh grade. Like this is the level of which we fall into with Anision. But every other paragraph is like that. I dated this girl, and then there was this girl, and then oh, this girl liked me. And it's like, who the fuck are you trying to kid, Greg? He's
It's
really
kind
acting like he's a player.
it's a bit like incel fan fiction then.
Yeah.
Fair.
It's miserable. It's unrelenting. Like it's riddled with typos. Yet he insists later on that he did proofread it. He doesn't understand how to use commas, right? Because commas are for natural pauses, you
Yeah.
know, where you would take a breath.
Mhm. Yeah.
He will
Or
write
adding in certain clauses and subclauses and stuff. And yeah.
Sure, but he'll write a word, use a comma, write another word, use a comma, write like 6 words, use a comma, and it's just like, what are you doing? You don't... But in the beginning, he introduces it by saying that, you know, he's always wondered if he's a superior writer because he did well in English at school, and it's like, who are you trying to kid? It's fan fiction of his own life. It's baffling. It's so fucking miserable.
I'd feel sorry for him if he wasn't so scummy, you know?
It's literally, it's the ramblings of like the criminally insane. And you know, speaking of like getting triggered whenever there's alcohol on TV, I swear this autobiography is so boring and shit and annoying. And he has a go at druggies and stuff, and you know, I've been sober for over 4 years, but reading it makes me want to drink to get through it. Reading it makes me want to do coke again, because it's just that, like,
Oh,
it's like, do you know what would make this a lot better? A bunch of drugs.
Can that be your video title? Like, Onision risks my sobriety. Too far?
It's true. Oh man. No, it sucks. Anyway, that's that. Should we get on with the episode?
Yeah, we have episode 2, season 1. We are very far into this. We're making good progress.
Episode 2, the Lorelai's first day at Chilton, where both Rory and Lorelai go to Chilton, though Lorelai doesn't because she's the mum, obviously. But it's Rory's first day at school, her new private school, and Lorelai makes a bit of a social clothing faux pas. That's the episode.
I like the outfit. I'm just going to say this now. That is an outfit I would wear.
If you look on Reddit for this episode, see, like, every thread is about the outfit she wears. Like, it's not about anything else to do with the actual episode. I don't mind it. You know, because it's a little cowgirl look. However, for Lorelai, it's quite out of character because she never wears anything like that.
That's right.
Ever again.
It was laundry day. It's not her fault.
Yeah, but even in the summer, she never wears shorts like that.
Yeah, true. I liked it though. I thought it was cute, but it made a good point of showing how, like, so here's the thing. It was like really good for showing how snobby like people at the private school were, but I didn't get the people in town being like, oh, you shouldn't have worn that, oh, you shouldn't have worn that. I'm like, are you trying to say they're just as snobby, or that was a bit weird.
With the town, it's just trying to show how much of a close-knit community it is. You know, that they feel comfortable enough to do that. But well, let's start right at the beginning of the episode, because in the introduction, the is it called a cold opening, where it's the intro before the theme song? I don't really like the intro because I hate feet. So, and she's there doing her toenails. I'm like, who is this for? I don't like this. I need to close my eyes. So
well, I think it's meant to show kind of like Lorelai's immaturity and how she gets distracted, and like she's trying to do this like nice mumly thing and, like, you know, look after her daughter and like pamper her before her first day of school, and then she gets distracted by a new CD. Like it's showing that, but also I didn't need the close-up of the feet.
Right.
I'm not a fan of them either.
Thank you. I know they're just a body part, but good lord. No.
It's like the same way I don't really want to see knees. I don't like knees either. I'd rather not have like close-ups of people's knees.
When are there close-ups of people's knees?
Exactly. So why are there close-ups of feet?
And then, so moving on from that, Lorelai wakes up. She's late because her furry alarm clock didn't purr, which I like that whole little my furry alarm clock didn't purr thing because it's very quirky. But
it's relatable. I feel like that's something that would happen to me. I'd buy a cute like alarm clock and it wouldn't work. But Rory annoyed me in that scene.
Well, she's being super, super stressy, and she says this. For the rest, do you know what happens if someone's late on their first day? For the rest of the year, they're labelled the late girl, which that is hardly the insult that Rory seems to think it is. Like, American kid high school insults are a different world from English kid school insults. It's like there's a TikToker called Jack Joseph who does these American high school bully TikToks where he's like, look at daddy, you're not gonna go to the prom alone, are you? And he's like dancing and doing like West Side Story stuff. That's what like American high schools seem like to
Yeah.
me.
God. It's well, when we get to like the insults they give Rory later, like when they call her Mary and stuff, it's like, oh, for God's sake. Yeah, I don't know. Like, honestly, if they're the only insults I'd have got at school, I'd have had a way better time than I did. Oh, do you think English kids are meaner?
Why do I feel like that's such a loaded question? I am English. I feel like we're definitely a bit more vulgar because I feel that, well, obviously, like Americans can be vulgar as well, because anyone can, like the Japanese can be vulgar, like anyone can be vulgar. But I feel like America has a tiny bit more of like a pearl clutchy attitude to certain swear words that I can't repeat here because I'll get demonetized, but swear words that like in Scotland are a form of like you saying all right mate, all right,
Yeah,
see you next Tuesday, you know. Whereas over here it's a bit more, I don't know.
I think at least when we were in school, there was like kids wanted to be edgy. They wanted to like say all the words they could. And there was definitely like a lack of empathy for anyone who was like even a little bit different, you know? And
well, I wonder if that's not just kids in general.
well, yeah, probably.
So I think maybe some cultures do have a bit more of a bullying problem because I've watched a lot of like Japanese and Korean TV documentaries and drama and stuff, and I've read like quite a few Japanese books, not in Japanese, obviously, I'm not that good. And it feels like and I've read anecdotal accounts as well that in some Asian cultures like South Korea and Japan, the bullying can be really. I read this book, I can't remember who it's by. It's called Heaven. It's a Japanese book by a Japanese author, and it's about this boy being bullied at high school, and he meets a friend, and they kind of she's bullied as well, and their only connection is that they're bullied together, and it's a kind of coming of age story, and the bullying is really like bad in this book, like it's crazy, like they force him to eat chalk and with like paint water, and he froze up, and then they force him to like drink the do you know what I mean?
That's
And I've said
awful.
it's definitely a theme that I've noticed in like a few Japanese movies, like, well, like Battle Royale, I guess. Like the bullying was so bad that someone brings in he was going to stab someone. No, he did stab somebody. He stabs the teacher. Right, I'm messing this up a little bit. I guess you could say it's kind of like bad kids in general, but maybe in some cultures there's a bit more of an attitude of, you know, sort it out yourself, and if you don't, you're kind of weak, where so like the bullying could get worse in certain because maybe it's gotten better in England, because I feel like people are getting a little bit more understanding of mental health over here.
Maybe, yeah. I'd hope so. I don't really know though. I don't really spend a lot of time around kids.
Oh, but then I saw a what did I see? I saw a film. I don't think it's out yet. It was like this multimedia screening of this film called The Boogeyman, and it's based on this very short Stephen King story. My boyfriend got like, it was a ticketed like premiere event. My boyfriend was invited because of his work, so I tagged along as his plus one and stuff. And in this film, it's a horror film, right? But these are, it's American, and these high school kids are, so the main character, the main protagonist's mother died like before the film, you know, so it's kind of like about a family coming to terms with that, with horror and supernatural elements. And you know, so her mum died, and these American kids are so mean to her about it, you know, literally like to the extent of her your mum died, basically. So I don't know, I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, like, as first days of school go, I don't think Rory's was quite as bad as she was making out. I'm not sure. Like the workload seems stressful, but other than that,
and she pisses off Paris because she accidentally ruins her project. So
I'd be angry too if I was Paris.
Yeah, right.
Like
especially
even
in a school
as an
like
accident.
that.
Like even if it's an accident, I'm holding that grudge for the next 20 years, you know? There was, when I was in school, a kid purposely, we had this baking competition, and I used to love baking, and it was a bread making one. I worked really hard on my bread recipe, and I practiced, and I was doing this really cool like plattered bread and stuff, and it was like a cheesy bread. And this kid purposely sabotaged it by pouring like a crap ton of salt in my mix without me realizing. So obviously the bread didn't rise properly, everything was like crap, and then when the judge tasted it, she nearly puked,
Oh
and I
God.
have not forgiven him to this day.
Oh God.
Yeah, still know his
Hmm.
name, but I'm not gonna publicly shame him. But he better know who he is. He's probably forgotten he even did that, but I hold the grudge.
I don't think anything like that happened to me. I was just kind of weird and did stuff by myself, really. I think so. I was definitely a bit of an asshole in school, but that's because everyone was an asshole in school. Like I was quite moody and a bit rude, but I'm a little bit of a rude person anyway, which I don't like about myself. I don't like that I am naturally a little bit rude. But every time I feel like every time that I'm like, you know what, I'm going to be really nice and forgiving today, and I'm not going to react with anger to things, whatever. People come along to test my patience. Like, um, Oh, but let's go through this chronologically. So they go
Yeah,
to school, they finally get to school.
yes.
There's the Chilton dad, um, which we never see again, so a little bit pointless. But the Chilton dad, he's speaking to Lorelai. She's wearing her silly to their standards outfit, and he's stumbling over his words talking to her, I guess because she's just so beautiful. Yet, like, he's a posh businessman bloke. He's probably a millionaire because his kids are going to this private school. So he's definitely spoken to beautiful women all of the time. But he's really stumbling over his words talking to Lorelai.
Mhm.
I know the point of it. I know the point of it. It's meant to be like a kind of because Lorelai is like a little bit of a manic pixie dream woman.
Yeah, and
Um,
she's not like the other girls, you know. She's
well,
different because she's not
exactly.
like the other mums. She's a young
Mm.
mum, a cool mum.
She's a
Isn't that
young
right, Karen?
mum,
Mm-hmm.
even though if they're all millionaires, most of them would probably look really nice anyway. You
Yeah,
know.
true.
Um,
It's
then they get to headmaster Charleston's office,
mhm.
and Emily's there, and they're also like Lorelai's trying to keep her coat on to cover up her outfit, but they're so pushy about her taking the coat off. That annoyed me.
Yeah, like just let people wear what they want. But I guess it's like I don't know because I've not really been around rich people very much. So I haven't really spent a lot of time around rich people, but I just get the impression that they have all these like etiquette rules and like
Yes.
like these traditions and ideas and stuff. And so they kind of like that comes before everything else. It's like if you sit down, you must take your coat off. Like it doesn't matter if the person's comfortable or the temperature or the what's underneath or anything like that. All that just goes out the window. And I don't know, I don't really like it. But it's odd. I feel like there was kind of like more of a critique of like richer upper class people in the earlier seasons than there was later on, you know?
Mm.
It's interesting.
Yeah, because later on it becomes a bit glorified with
Yeah.
Rory wanting to be a part of that world. I also noticed that like Lorelai is just really messy. Not what she's wearing, but just
Mhm.
as a person. She can't talk to adults. She can't talk to the severe looking woman. She can't
Yeah.
talk to the Chilton dad very well. She can't talk to Headmaster Charleston. And Emily's there unannounced, and this annoys Lorelai. But I kind of think that it was better for Rory that Emily was there because at least she was being professional about things and she was maintaining conversation. Um,
Yeah.
and upon watching it, Emily's not even actually aggy about what Lorelai wears. She cracks a few jokes about it. Like she's being funny, like is your
Yeah.
horse outside? Are you gonna wear spurs with like she's being funny, which Lorelai would make the same jokes about
Mhm.
someone else if they'd shown up to, this prestigious place
Yeah.
wearing so she would make the same jokes. So it's kind of like, well, why can't Emily? Why is it annoying when Emily does it, even though they've got the same sense of humor?
Well, that's the thing about like Lorelai and Emily's relationship that's so interesting is that Lorelai is so like her and doesn't want to admit it. So
Yeah.
it's like she gets annoyed at her mum for doing all the things that she does. I think
Mm.
it's quite funny. It's
Did
like
you
there's parallels we were talking about in the first episode when they were sat
Yeah.
side by side. Yeah, sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, did you notice when Headmaster Charleston was talking to Rory? I don't know about you, but I was getting kind of weird, sort of sexist vibes from Headmaster
Oh
Charleston
yeah.
because Rory says she wants to be like this, I assume journalist woman. I've not really heard of her. Sorry,
Yeah.
it is a 20-year-old show. And Headmaster Charleston kind of assumes that she wants to be like Oprah or like one of the women on this channel called The View, which I've not never watched, but I think it's an American
It's like
equivalent
our
of
Loose
Loose
Women.
Women. Yeah,
Yeah.
Loose Women, which like I would never want to go on Loose Women because it's just this gaggle of horrible women screeching to be the loud. Like they are Loose Women annoys me.
Yeah.
Actually, did you know that Denise Welch, I think that's her name, she's on Loose Women. She's the mother of Matt Healy from the 1975, the rock group.
Yes.
So he's a nepotism baby, and he's acting like he's well rock and roll. You're just a nepo.
No.
Like, so I looked at it. Like, I looked at his Wikipedia page. It's like, oh, son of the actor and son of like this person here. And it's like I'm getting sick of nepo babies because when you look into it, 95% of them are like 95% of these of famous people are, and I'm not jealous. I'm just annoyed by it. And
A little bit jealous.
Well, Matt Healy's only been on my he's only been on my radar because I tried to listen to it 1975. It's not for me. Don't like it. I'm a
They
My
have like
Chemical Romance
2
girl till I
tolerable
die.
songs, and then the rest are just a bit like, nah, for me.
I listened
But
to
anyway.
like 5 seconds of one. But he's been all over my Reddit for you page because people were bitching about him and Taylor Swift
Yeah.
dating, and like I don't care about any of these people, but I was getting a bit invested in this
You
drama.
like the drama.
Well, what actually took me by surprise, it probably shouldn't have, is how parasocial a lot of Taylor Swift's fan base are. Because it's like,
Oh, yeah.
It's like, yeah,
It's been like that for a while.
I know, but I was still surprised by it because I was just kind of like, yeah, he's trash, but also you don't know this person, as in Taylor Swift. You don't know her as a person. You don't. I run off the assumption that like everyone in the media is probably a bit of a dick, and I'll run off that assumption until I meet someone personally. The only person I don't think that about is Keanu Reeves because everyone who's ever worked with him says he's lovely. My friends in film who have worked with him say that he's lovely, bit introverted, lovely. You know, so like these people, it's like you don't know Taylor Swift. Yeah, Matt Healy's an asshole, but also every girl dates an asshole at one point.
But no.
Like it happens, you know. Maybe he has a magic penis or something. I don't know. But I was getting like invested in this Reddit drama, reading all this stuff. Yeah.
But I do quite like I say like it freaks me out how much her fans watch like everything they do and piece everything together. But I do quite like reading those threads of stuff of people being like, oh, and then I found this and then I found this because I'm like, oh, it's like a puzzle TV show but real life, and they're finding all these clues. Like when it was announced that they'd broken up, and then someone was like, oh yeah, and then like that night Taylor was crying on stage as she sang these lyrics, and then people like tracked down the clip of it and she was like holding back tears and stuff, and people like, oh, do we think like this might be about him? It's like, I was like, ooh, let me watch more. I have like barely any interest in Taylor Swift. I like 20 of her songs, and she's got, you know, like 300 out there. So I don't really care that much, but for some reason I quite like the gossip.
Yeah, well, personally, I think that they were just like shagging, like, and that was maybe the extent of it. Well, she got out of a 6-year relationship with that bloke Joe. It was just a rebound. See, I shouldn't. All of this I've learned against my will. I shouldn't know any of this stuff, and yet it's just been on my Reddit. I can't help but click. Yes. Well, my point was about Loose Women is. Headmaster Charleston is this head of this, you know, private prestigious school where lots of serious female students attend. You know, Paris is one of the serious women in question, girls. So I don't understand why he would assume that Rory wants to be some type of daytime TV celebrity. I don't know where that assumption comes from. Well, I don't know the lady she likens herself to be like anyway, so maybe that lady is a daytime, so maybe I'm completely off the mark, but like because I don't have that background info, to me when he says all that stuff it feels a little bit like weirdly sexist coming from a strange place, considering half the students are women and all of them are serious, and he makes a note of being like, this is a very serious school and you have to, you know, pull your weight around here. So I don't, that's the vibe I got from it.
It's sorry, don't know if you heard that. The brakes.
No.
God's sake. There's a car like screeching down the street. Anyway,
he's hard, but he's got a big willy. Oh my god, I heard that. No way. Maybe it's a car chase.
You get it a lot around here. It's really it's because I'm right next door to a dodgy area, and we've got the red light district next door. So
Have you?
it's
Really?
literally just there. Yeah, it's the only place in the country where prostitution's legal.
That? I had no idea.
Yeah, I live next door to it.
Oh my god, that's a YouTube video.
Sometimes
that's
chat to the girls when I'm walking Cairo.
That's a video right there. That's clickbait.
Some of them are really nice, and some of them have really tragic stories. Like this one woman, she was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, can I pet your dog?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, of course." And she went, "Oh, just had to give up my kids this morning." I was like, I'm sorry, you what? She's like, "Yeah, yeah, the social came and took them, but it's all right because I'm gonna get sober." I was like, "Oh, good for you." And she went, "Yeah, it's been 3 days since I did any crack." I'm like, "Oh,
No way.
well done."
No way.
She just opened up, told me all this stuff on the street, and I was just like, "Oh, great." And she's like, "Yeah, I haven't worked in a while, so I'm back to it today." And me being all like trying to be like naive and stuff. I'm like, "Oh, great, what do you do?" And she went, "Well, I'm here, I work the streets." So I was like, "Of course you do." Yeah.
Oh my god.
Very, very awkward. Oh, but some of them are lovely, so
Yeah. Oh wow.
yeah.
Well, I hope her
So
day gets better wherever she is.
yeah,
Whatever she's doing. Hope it improves. Hope she uh stays sober.
it's really sad though. He had
Mm.
someone died a couple of months back down there. Like one of the girls, I think she overdosed, and just her body was left on the street for hours before the police found it.
You're joking.
It was really heartbreaking. Yeah,
No way.
yeah. Kind of hope it wasn't that woman.
That's
Anyone.
crazy because you I don't know, you wouldn't think that kind of happens in England. Maybe I'm being a bit naive now. But not a body being left out. God, that's
Sorry, did you hear
awful.
that again? Yeah, no, it was awful.
Did they crash?
I don't know. There was definitely a crashing noise, right?
Do you want to go find
Sure,
out?
it's fine. Sure, it's fine.
I'd be there like curtain twitching, like looking through. I'm a proper nosy neighbour. I'd be outside with like my hair up in a towel and a dressing gown, gossiping to a neighbour.
You need to have a cigarette while you do it, though. Even if you're not actually smoking, you need it in your hand just for the image, you know?
100%.
But yeah, no, it's an interesting area I live in.
Yeah.
I'm kind of embarrassingly, I'm kind of part of the gentrification process, you know? It's like these are new flats, all that sort of thing. So I feel a bit guilty about that, but also, what can you do? I needed a pet-friendly place, and there's not that many in Leeds.
Yeah.
So this one comes first, don't you, baby? Yes, you do. Yeah, not long after I moved in, the pub down the road, it's like an abandoned pub, it got closed down. But someone set it on fire, and there were just like fire engines everywhere. It was awesome.
No way.
Yeah. Oh, it's interesting. I was watching it all from my balcony, smoke everywhere, fire engines.
I thought you meant smoke everywhere as in you were a cigarette.
Oh, next time.
Back when I lived in East London in Shoreditch, the Dalston riots happened, like just literally, and of course I went along. Like, of course I went along to see what was happening because I used to love going to that kind of stuff, you know, like there's always these protests on like November 5th. They used to be like Million Mass March, that's what it was called. So I used to go along to those, got kettled by police, went along to this Dalston riot, and like the riot police came out, and I was like sort of right, I don't know, it was because it's just interesting. It's just interesting to see that kind of happen. But someone had dragged this
secret rioter, a criminal.
Well, someone had. Well, I wasn't joining in. I was just observing. You know, someone had
that's what they all say.
Yeah, someone dragged a mattress out to the middle of the road and set it on fire and stuff. So, like these big flames going up, and then the riot police come, and people are chucking bottles everywhere. And I was just kind of in the middle of it, like, got a lot of exercise that night, like running away from because I wasn't joining in or anything.
Yeah.
But the people who were doing the bottle throwing were sort of like looking out for me in a way. You know what I mean? It's like there's a camaraderie. For that kind of stuff. When the Tories got in, not when the Tories got in, they've been in for years. When David Cameron got in over Ed Miliband's, there was protests at Downing Street. I went along to that. People were like not tear gas, but they were letting off like flavored smoke, not flavored smoke. It wasn't vaping, coloured smoke and stuff. I met one of my best friends, Kieran, at that.
No way.
Yeah, I used to go to all kind of things because it's just like it's interesting to observe, I find, rather than being like stuck in that. And also, this leads on to my next point actually, because I kind of wanted to be a bit of like a gonzo journalist, I suppose. I mean, I didn't do anything with it. I just went and observed these things, maybe took a few videos that I posted, got on like my drive or whatever. Because I find
Which,
it's just
funnily enough, is what Rory says she wants to do with her life.
Exactly. So
it all comes back. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, because I've noted that like they don't use the term gonzo journalist, but when she's saying things about wanting to be out there, be part of the action, that's what that means to me. I used to be, and this all ties in together, like I used to be a really big fan of Hunter S. Thompson's work, who is like the father of gonzo journalism. So that's where I kind of got my little, I'm living in London, I'm going to go along to these like protests and
Fear and Loathing, right?
Yeah. And he lived with the Hells Angels for I think a year until they kicked the shit out of him, you know. So like I for a while thought, that'd be like really cool to do. And even with the Paris riots going on, if I'd had like spare money, I wanted to go to Paris to interview people during the Paris riots, because even the police in Paris were joining in with the protesters and like standing down and stuff. Yeah, because they're all pissed off at Macron. And I think it's really interesting just to observe human behavior. But Rory does not have the edge nor assertiveness nor what it takes to be a gonzo journalist. She couldn't hang out at the Hells Angels. She couldn't be at riots or protests or like, you know, bottles flying around and people like with their riot gear on. Like, you know, so I briefly tried to pull a Hunter S. Thompson in my early 20s, but I couldn't do it because although I loved drugs almost as much as Hunter S. Thompson did, I kind of hate people, so I sort of like I like to observe, but also like being a journalist be annoying, having to talk to people all the time. Even though what we're doing right now is a character study on imaginary people. So I don't know if I'm being ironic or satirical. I don't know where the line is with myself anymore.
You like people as long as they're not real.
I like people up until when they just start talking. No, I actually consider myself a really antisocial extrovert because like I do like being around people that I've not met. You know, this premiere that I went to with my boyfriend and his work colleagues, I'd never met any of them, but like afterwards my dopamine pool was full because I'd met a bunch of new people and chatted like shit with people. However, I am also very antisocial, and it's not through shyness, it's just through I can't be bothered, like you're all annoyed. So it's hard. But you know, back to Rory. It's not about me, but back to Rory. Like she never had what it took to be the type of journalist the story is trying to tell us she wants to be.
Maybe not, but I did find at least at this point she had some passion and some drive and an idea of what she wanted to do and where she wanted to go. And over the seasons, that just completely disappears and goes away. And I'm like, well, why is that? What changed? It can't just be, oh, Lorelai and people in Stars Hollow spoiled her, because she has drive at this point and she's only ever been around Lorelai and Stars Hollow. So is it Chilton's influence and like all the rich kids? Is it Richard and Emily? Do they kind of like make her what's the word? She kind of gets complacent, you know?
Well, I think the main change for her happens when she goes to Yale, you know, and they don't initially have the money for her to go to Yale, so she just goes to her grandparents and makes the deal on her own terms with her grandparents, and that's maybe where the change starts to happen. Well, actually, no, because even in this season I think it's this season when the house gets termites and Lorelai doesn't want to go to her parents for it, but Rory's like, well, we need the loan, why don't you just go to grandma and grandpa? She starts to see more of that she can rely on that world of privilege. She sees from her grandparents paying for Chilton and then later Yale that she has access to this world of privilege, she can rely on it. And it's an interesting one though, because like I don't know about you, but if I suddenly had a grandparent that was a millionaire, I kind of would want to be like, hey, could you maybe like loan me 20 grand so I can pay for a deposit somewhere? You know, you kind of would naturally want to take advantage of it, wouldn't you? I think if all of us suddenly had a very rich relative, no, take advantage is wrong, actually, because that's mean. I wouldn't want to use them as a money source, but at the same time, like knowing you have those things to fall back on. Can we begrudge
safety net sort of thing? Because it's not like she's just like frivolously spending. She wants it for her education. I don't know. It's hard to say though, because like I don't begrudge her asking, but then at the same time I'm like, does she realize how privileged she is? Does she realize how easy she has it compared to some? Because I'm not sure if she does.
No, that's got to be the difference, right? Because I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, I thought Hornet had got in, then I got really scared for a second. I'm still on the lookout for the Hornets. Charleston is one of the only characters, I think, to tell Rory that she's capable of failing. Because he gives her this whole speech about how, you know, you might fail, you're starting late, failure is a part of life, but it's not a part of Chilton. Like, I think he's one of the only people besides Mitchum to be like, you know, you're probably not going to be all that.
Yeah, and yet he's painted as a bad guy for saying it.
No, he's just being realistic. If anything, he's being very realistic about what they expect at this private school of, you know, like some of the most educated kids in the country.
I think it's quite nice for Rory to get a reality check, you know? I think she needs this because she has just had it kind of easy before academically. And I think she goes into Chilton, you know, like he says, like expecting to be like one of the smartest people there. And she's realizing, oh crap, I actually need to learn a lot. Which is why I didn't really like that scene at the end where she like one-ups Paris, because I'm like, come on, you've been there like a day. And I don't know. I kind of wanted to see her struggle a bit longer.
Well, that's a prevalent theme throughout Gilmore Girls, that she never actually struggles. She somehow always becomes, even as far later on as when she's doing community service, maybe she struggles a bit in the first episode of her doing her community service, but then literally like an episode later she's there like taking charge, being assertive, and it's like, but we also know that she's not an assertive person, so it's very weird when I don't know, it's a bit confusing. I did note that they have to sing the school song whenever they have to know it, and they have to also know it in Latin, which my Duolingo lessons could never. I've started doing Latin on Duolingo. I don't know why. Like that's not useful to me. That's not French, useful. Japanese, well, I enjoy it. Latin, why am I learning Latin? And yet I am.
Why not? Why do we do anything?
It's actually, I found it like quite enjoyable, you know, because I guess my logic is just, well, are most European languages Roman based? So isn't it interesting to see, you know, where it all kind of comes from? That's my logic with it. It's kind of fun though.
Good, and keep doing it. Sometimes you just need fun. There doesn't have to be a reason for anything. Like me painting my beetles and stuff. I'm not really learning anything useful doing that. I just like beetles and I like painting. So I just sit there for a few hours and paint beetles.
Yeah.
So you've got to have fun.
Yeah, exactly. And I want to be someone that knows a bunch of languages. I don't know why. But
you can be that person who, like, when you pass an old building, you're like, oh, do you know what that says? And then you can be like the know-it-all that like translates it to people.
Yeah, the know-it-all that everyone hates.
Yeah, it'd be great.
I also noticed in this episode, Patty was smoking, which you don't really see that anymore in TV.
No.
And yet, I started watching the other day the original Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're always. Do you know what's funny? Like the original season 1 of the Twilight Zone, like all the men are always puffing away on cigarettes and stuff. And the biggest joke of it is like they're introduced and it's always like, oh, Robert, 35. And it's like, no way, that man is like 48. What are you talking about? Or did they just look older because they're always puffing away on cigarettes? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, this is like a thing that it's a theory my sister has. She's like, people used to look older and uglier than they do now on average.
Yeah.
They really did. And like, it sounds like horrible to say, but then sometimes I'm like, maybe she's right. But is that now because we have like more plastic surgeries and stuff and more like beauty treatments, or is it just because maybe people know how to look after themselves a bit better? They know things like smoking's bad for you, alcohol's bad for you, have a good diet, that sort of thing. Or
Sleep
maybe it's
more,
just like
less stress.
mm, get a dog.
Maybe, well, beauty products contain
Mm,
probably much better for you ingredients, because beauty products back then
yeah,
probably contained, I don't know, like asbestos and
arsenic. Yeah.
uranium. You know what I mean? I think it's a
Yeah.
multitude of things. And well, because pollutants really age your skin. So now we have
Mm,
anti-pollutant
that's
makeup
true.
and technology and stuff. But back then, like
Yeah.
where those factories and smog, it's like no wonder the kids who were like 4 years old looked like they were actually like four going on
Yeah.
40.
People working outside all day without any sun protection.
Yeah.
That's gonna age you. Yeah, everything. Kind of makes sense.
People smoking at a
Yeah.
very early age
Yeah.
back
Yeah, my
then.
parents both started at 15.
I think my mum was like something ridiculous, like 12
Yeah.
when she started smoking. So
Oh, wait, no. They left school at 15. I don't know, maybe they started smoking then. But it was around the same time, if not before.
yeah,
But yeah. But yeah, leaving
yeah,
school at 15. God.
yeah. You
It,
don't really see people smoking anymore
which is
in
good, I think.
TV. Like, did they ban it? I don't know if they banned it.
I don't know.
I feel
I'm
like
not
that's
sure.
something that they would ban, but I also kind of feel like, if they're going to do that with
Mm.
smoking, then I got a few things to tell them about alcohol consumption. And yeah, alcohol consumption
Yeah.
is still very much glorified
Yeah.
in a lot of TV shows.
Yeah. That's true. And drugs in quite a few.
Hmm.
I don't know. I'd say I know there's definitely rules about like in the UK, especially smoking on set.
Hmm.
Like you can get some exceptions, and like in some plays, you can get exceptions for like actual smoking. Like, have you seen what's it called with Nathan Fielder? 1 minute, let me Google this. Not the rehearsal I'm thinking of. Nathan for You. Have you seen
No,
this?
no.
God, you will love it. It's like the best thing ever. Me and Kieran like binge watched the whole thing, and I cannot remember the last time I laughed this much. So Nathan's this comedian who poses as like a business expert, and like he's like he gets these failing businesses to like come to him and like say, we're struggling, will you fix us? Kind of like kitchen nightmares.
Hmm.
But then he gives them the worst possible help or like really ridiculous things to help. So with one of them, one episode, he had this bar manager come to him and was like, since the smoking bans come in whatever state it was, people just aren't coming to our bar anymore. Like sales have dropped so much, we're struggling to get people in. And Nathan's like, okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to make people be able to smoke on the premises by calling it a theatre production. So he just
Hmm.
invited a whole bunch of people to the bar, got them all like smoking and everything like that. And he put two seats in the corner behind like a little red curtain. And he got people to actually like pay for tickets and come and watch the show. And the show was just people in the bar.
No way.
Yeah. And he was like, "Oh, I can't believe like how successful it actually is." Because normally, obviously, they don't work, and it's like really ridiculous stuff. Like in one of them, he stuck into like a baseball game in like a long coat with like packets of chili inside, and he was going around to people and be like, "Do you want to buy chili?" And then like pumping out of like a pump in his sleeve. It was a whole thing. It was great. It's just watch it. You'll really enjoy him. He also did the second series called The Rehearsal, where the premise was like when people have like difficult conversations and stuff that they need to have in life, he gets them to like rehearse it out with them, and then he like tries to predict what's going to happen and stuff like
Hmm.
that. And in one of them, he like created this fake family, and this kid got really attached to him, and he like traumatized a child.
No way.
It was
Well,
really
like
bad.
really? Oh
Yeah,
dear.
it was very funny though. But anyway, I thoroughly recommend it. I think you'll love it. Point is, something to do with smoking. Watch
Yes,
Nathan for You. It's great.
I'll check it out. I'll add it to the list
Mhm.
of all the things I've got to do. Um, There's a bit where Emily rings up Lorelai to talk about buying Rory
Mhm.
some school clothes and school stuff. And to be honest, on in this instance, and
Mhm.
just this instance, because I think she's out of order later on, I think that Emily is actually right. And that Lorelai should have just let
Mm.
Emily buy her some extra school clothes, extra school merchandise, this type of thing, because the other kids at the school would have all of that stuff. Their parents would have bought them the whole thing. And I don't think in a place like Chilton, you'd want to be the odd one out for not being
Yeah.
able to maybe afford extra clothes or whatever, because the kids would pick on you for being different regardless. You don't need to be the kid that only has like two skirts, doesn't even have like the special sweater, doesn't have XYZ.
Yeah.
Because I remember at my secondary school, um, the blazer, I don't know if this is true, but just at our secondary school anyway, the blazers that had like the kind of slit at the back
Mm.
were the women's blazers, and the ones that didn't have the slit at the back were the men's blazers. And I used to like really worry about, oh no, am I gonna, is my mum accidentally gonna get me a men's blazer? Because then people are gonna call me
Oh,
a boy and all this stuff.
yeah.
And I remember seeing in science class once, like one of the guys was wearing one of the ones with the slit at the back. And
Mm.
so this boy was just taking the piss out of him, being like, you've got a women's blazer, da, 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 da. And then the guy got so wound up by it. I can't remember what happened, but like something happened and both of them had to get sent out. Either like he turned around and threatened him and swore, or he actually hit him. I don't remember which one it was because this was like ages ago and I was 13 or whatever. Um, but like I feel like that adds to my point that school is rotten. Kids will pick on you for anything, even something as
Yeah.
stupid and mundane as a fucking slit in the back of, who cares?
Yeah.
And it sounds ridiculous because it's 2023 and like clothes do not have a gender. Doesn't matter. Skirts were originally made for men, high heels were originally made for men. It doesn't fucking matter. And yet,
Mhm.
just like what 15 or so years ago when I was in secondary school, like kids will pick on each other for anything. So I think in this instance, Emily is right. Just let her buy the extra clothes, Lorelai. Just let her. Like
Yeah, it's
I know it's against Lorelai's pride, but like you just don't want to be the odd one out with teenagers.
that's true. I do feel like they were both being kind of stubborn though in the way they went about it.
Mm.
Like if Emily had like approached her and been like, "Oh, like, do you mind if I maybe like get her some clothes? Do you mind if I do this?" But instead she's like, "What size is she? I'm getting her this, this, and this, and the internet, and this, and that." And I'm like it's that overbearingness
Yeah, yeah,
that I
yeah. The
can understand
presumption.
Lorelai's frustration. Yeah. It's I don't know, maybe that's a mum thing though. I feel like a lot of mums do that.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe. Tristan is introduced in this episode, played by Chad Michael Murray, which firstly, Chad Michael Murray's name, his full name, is like a proper name that a Chad would have. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's a really Chad name, Chad Michael
I
Murray.
never knew that was him. I'd always heard of Chad Michael Murray because some of the girls in school when I was a teenager were like, "Oh, Chad Michael Murray." Chad never knew what he looked like. But I knew Logan, but just didn't know that was him.
Yeah.
Not Logan, Tristan. He's
Yeah.
he's Logan Jr. though. Let's be honest.
Well, I think because he's meant to be a bit of a bad boy, so I think
Mhm.
so he had to go off to star in One Tree Hill. So I
Ah,
think maybe that's why they kind of got Jess introduced as a character, because maybe like Jess and Tristan were meant to
yeah.
fulfill similar roles. Because it kind of feels like Tristan
That
just
makes
leaves and
sense.
then nothing really happens about it,
Yeah.
even though he was originally set up to make Dean jealous and stuff, which is then a role that Jess later on fulfills.
Yeah.
Um yeah, but like him calling Rory a Mary is such a tame insult.
Yeah.
I don't know what the posh upper school equivalent in England would be. Calling someone a Mary. I don't know.
Mm.
Because our posh private school students are always too busy doing things like putting their penises into dead pigs. So, bit different. I'm not making that up, American audience. It's true. Google David Cameron, dead pig. And the weird
Sorry,
thing
no,
is the Black Mirror episode about the Prime Minister who has to fuck the pig that came out before the David Cameron stuff was
really?
known. Yeah. Like that,
Oh, that's
yeah,
brilliant.
came out prior
Well,
to any of that being known. So, you
well,
know,
I reckon a lot of like posh or private school boys all do the same thing. Can we also just clarify for our American audience that wasn't just like a random person, that was our prime minister.
yeah,
Like,
our
yeah.
Prime Minister shagged a dead pig.
In the
Well,
mouth.
oh no, he only put his genitals in it. Oh please, as if that's what he only did. Come on, have some imagination or don't.
God.
Yeah. Yeah. Miss him.
Anyway.
Miss him, old David. Things seemed a bit more fun then. Like, do you know, I discuss this with my friends frequently, but like, how bad do things actually need to fucking be to look back on the David Cameron regime as like with rose tinted goggles of like, oh, if only things were as simple as they were back then when it was still shit. It was just like shit light.
The Tories really have
Anyway.
screwed us over this last decade, haven't they?
Yeah, but we're all too apathetic to care about it now. Oh, another thing that I've noticed about Gilmore Girls, why does everyone pronounce detail as detailed? Everyone in the show, it's what are the
Really?
details? Have you not noticed?
No.
Everyone says it.
Is that an
Richard,
American
Suki.
thing? Like
I don't know.
aluminum?
I don't
Detail?
know. Details. I'll send you
Detail.
the details. I don't know because at first it's like, is it a posh American thing? But then Suki also says it, and a few of them, like
Hmm.
Rory and stuff, say details.
Maybe it's a state accent thing.
Maybe it's a New Haven thing.
Yeah.
With Suki and Jackson, I like the whole peach exchange where they
Mhm.
complain about the peaches being watery. I like that. I think that's funny.
It was quite sweet. I don't know. I still can't tell if I like Suki or not. Sometimes I'm like, yeah, okay, it's quite funny. It's like quite good. And then other times I'm just like, does she really need to be there? I actually oh my god, so I realized this episode that the harp player, what's her name?
Drella.
Drella. Yeah, that's actually she's played by who is she? I
Alex
can't remember the
Borstein.
actress. Yeah, she's on. She's Susie in. Have you seen the Marvelous Mrs. Maisel?
No.
I really like it. I love it. I thought the final episode could have been a little better, but it was a nice ending. It was all good. But yeah, I didn't realize that was the same actress. And what you were saying the last episode when you were like, oh yeah, she was originally meant to play Suki and stuff. I looked that up and I found a clip from the pilot of her as Suki, and I actually really liked it. I think she would have been a great Suki. I think she'd have been like a little maybe drier while still being quirky.
Yeah.
It would have been a different Suki, but I don't know. I feel like maybe I would have liked it.
Yeah,
I like
and
that actress though. She's good.
the Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, that's also written by Amy Palladino, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. You get a lot of that kind of very quick like banter between people and kind of like long sort of monologues and like the I don't know, the wittiness and stuff. It's very, very Gilmore Girls in that respect. But I like it.
I might have to check it out then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's nice. It's fun. I really enjoy it. The fourth season, I think, was a little slow for me, or maybe the third. I can't remember which. No, it was the fourth season that was a little slow for me. But then I liked the fifth. They really changed up the format in the fifth one, and they had lots of like flashbacks and flash forwards and stuff like that happening because it was the final season. So they were like showing things that like happened in the future and so, and it was nice. It's a nice way to wrap it up. I enjoyed it. Good series. Yeah. Oh, the other thing I did really like is Suki was the only one who was like really encouraging and nice to Lorelai about her like bad outfit and stuff like that. Like I thought that was very sweet. So they do have a nice friendship. I'll give them that.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah, because it's just it's not the worst thing in the world to, wear a silly outfit. I mean, it happens sometimes, right? It's not.
We've all done it.
Yeah, it's a very low stakes drama.
Yeah. It's fine. Oh my god. Right. This is a minor thing, but it kind of blew my mind like how far the world has come. The no cell phone sign in Luke's and where he tells her to take the phone call outside. You just wouldn't get that today, would you?
No, you couldn't. You couldn't, because everywhere it's like we're all glued to our phones, all of us. We can't help it. Phones are almost an extension of our consciousness now. It's weird. Do you have the bump in your pinky finger from where? So your phone tends to rest here, and if you look at your pinky fingers side by side, one of them might have a bump. Mine definitely does. Where I hold my phone, one of them has a bump, one doesn't, one is straighter. If you hold them, like if you do this.
Oh wait, that way.
Yeah, might help.
No,
my phone
my phone
one has a dip, a bump. from, like, it's literally
Yeah.
part of our evolution in real time. Yeah,
Awesome.
take that creationist, like evolution.
Although
There you go.
maybe for me it's because I have a mum case.
Oh God.
I know, it's embarrassing. But like I always forget to take stuff out with me. So if I do this, it's all in one place and I've got like all my cards and ID and everything I could ever need.
It's not embarrassing because like I should have a mum case rather than this absolutely despicable like danger to mankind, this like 10th wonder of the world, this thing that fucking electrocutes me half the time.
People make fun of
Yeah.
me for this all the time, but I'm like, yeah, but I never forget anything because
Mm.
everything's all together. I've got business cards in there, I've got some emergency cash in there, I've got my ID, I've got 2 debit cards and a credit card. So I'm never gonna run out of money if like one thing gets lost or stolen. And yeah, it's great. It's my life.
And it's only a true like mum phone if you're doing the old one finger
Hmm,
one finger for texting action, because like all mums do that. They
exactly.
can't they
And
can't
I only do that when I'm drunk.
There you go. Say it's all right. I noticed when Emily was on the phone to Lorelai for like the second time, where she was talking about wanting to get Rory a car. That's when, for me, she starts being really overbearing because it's like, oh, just
Yeah.
pack it in, would you? She says, yes, Rory takes the bus. Drug dealers take the bus, and I was just like, no, they don't. What universe are you in? Drug dealers don't take the bus. They drive. Like
I
you've
think
clearly never had a drug dealer.
yeah, true. I do think Americans have a weird relationship with public transport though.
Do you
Like they
think so?
just
How
don't
so?
well, they don't use it as much, do they? I'm not talking
Hmm.
about like big cities like New York where you got the subway and stuff, but like in smaller places, like I don't know, it just doesn't seem as common.
I think because America is a lot bigger, when you turn
Yeah,
15 or 16, whenever it is, you basically do have to learn
yeah.
to drive to be able to drive around. Yeah, there's there's this YouTuber called Rachel, and she's got this YouTube channel, Rachel and Jun, and she's American and she's got a Japanese husband,
Mm.
and she says that like because they do a lot of videos of like the differences, the cultural differences, whatever. And she says that like in America, to get anywhere you have to drive around. In Japan, you can just kind of cycle and
Mm.
walk and like use a bit of public transport. And whenever she goes back to stay in America for extended periods of time, she always puts on a bit of weight because she just drives everywhere. Whereas in
Yeah,
Japan, like you kind of have to walk everywhere instead. So yeah, maybe
yeah,
I think it's just because America is like so much bigger
yeah,
than England or you know places in Europe
yeah. I
or
always find it quite
Japan.
interesting in like American TV programs where they make a really big deal out of going on a train. Like going on a train. And like, have you
Mm.
seen the bit in Modern Family where Alex is like, she has her train hat and stuff? I'm like, really? It's a train. Like we have people like peeing in the corner on our trains. They're just like these grotty little like things.
Yeah, we have people like vaping and just smoking
Mhm.
on, especially the new Elizabeth line. Because like the Elizabeth line trains are bigger than the standard tube ones, right? There's more
Are
room and
they?
stuff. And I've noticed like on the late night ones, like people will just start smoking. Like they don't care. Like they'll fully just be,
No.
and you're English, so you're not gonna say anything.
Yeah.
Like I just look at my phone and just ignore whatever's going on. But
I always used to really like the DLR. The DLR felt like the classy bit of London's transport because it was always clean and you could sit in the front and look out the little window and pretend you're a train driver.
hmm.
And it just, I don't know, it just seemed nice. It seemed respectable. Everyone there was always very polite, you know?
Mm.
Yeah, like that.
The the central line, I think, is like the dirtiest, as in they did a study, and
Mm,
that's the like most unhygienic
I can see
one.
that.
I
Yeah.
try to not touch anything when I go on like the main tubes. Hammersmith and City, that's a nice line because like you got more room, there's more like
Yeah,
airflow. There's no
that's true.
do you know I don't like when people when you're on the tube and you're in the ones where like the carriages they have doors. Because
Mhm.
the Hammersmith City, there's no doors, you could just walk around.
Yeah.
I don't like it when the tube's moving and then someone like people walk between
Oh my
carriages.
God, it
Do you know
freaks
what I
me
mean?
out. Yeah. I'm
I
like, they're gonna fall, they're
worry.
gonna fall. They never do. But what if they did?
What if they did?
Oh, I don't like it. You know, someone
Yeah.
did a study on like the noise on the tube, and apparently it's like some in some tunnels and stuff, the volume is so high, it's like above what should be legal because it's so dangerous for human hearing.
Really?
Yeah. I feel like it was like a Tom Scott video or something, or like someone like him. I don't
Hmm.
know, it was a while back. But yeah, I found that fun.
I was on, I don't know what tube I was on, but I was like at Oxford Circus going to just like Piccadilly or Leicester Square the other day. And the tube driver was like on something, I think, because like the tube goes like, it doesn't go fast. It probably goes like 30 or 40 miles an hour. It just feels faster because you're in an enclosed space, you know?
Yeah.
But like, no, this guy was like on something because they were going so fast. Like I sat down because it was like that fast that I could have fallen over. And these women were getting like literally flung to the other. They were standing up and they got flung because this guy, he was like going breakneck speed, like he was late for his dinner or something. It was
That's a bit
crazy.
scary.
I didn't get back on the same tube line afterwards because I was like, I ain't getting risking that driver again. Like, man was on some sort of mission.
My favorite experience was one of the DLR drivers once. He basically gave us like a little tour as we went along, and he was like, "All right, guys, coming up next, we've got Canary Wharf. On your right, you're gonna say," and he was like saying all this stuff. And then like once we got to the end of the line in Lewisham, he was like, "All right, thanks for like being with us today. My name's so and so. I've got a YouTube channel. You can follow me over there. I do my own poetry. I do these videos. I do this." I'm like, I'm following this guy. He was great.
I like it when they get sarcastic and rude to people not getting on the tubes properly. I like it when they do that and start getting attitude and start basically calling people stupid for not knowing how to get on the tube properly. You know, when everyone's like pushing and it's rush hour and it's yeah.
Oh, I don't miss that of London, like that time of day in London. Oh, that was never fun. But yeah. Oh my God, sorry, back to Gilmore Girls. Also, Kirk's first appearance, but not as Kirk,
as Mick. Yeah, not the Kirk we know and love.
I'm glad they kept him in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think he would have suited being a Mick forever? Or is he a Kirk through and through?
Mick to me is more like a, I don't know. If I think of someone called Mick, I won't think of them as American. I'd think of, maybe I'm biased because I've known English people called Mick, you know, but it's like a Mick, you know, like
it's like a builder.
Yeah, like a builder, and I'm gonna build my own barbecue, and it like won't even be a big drama. I don't even need to look on YouTube for a tutorial on how to do it. I'm gonna sand my own chairs or whatever, like a Mick, like someone who like knows their shit. Well, like I guess kind of a bit like Luke.
I was gonna say
Luke has kind of got Mick energy.
I can see that, yeah. But I was also gonna say like Danny Dyer's character in EastEnders, he's called Mick.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. It's like an East End, like Mick. Like, I'm Mick. Maybe I'm bold. Maybe I'm not. Who knows? Keep you guessing. I think Kirk suits Kirk because he's like a Kirk.
Yeah. He's what's the word for him? I don't know. He's like
unique.
He is
eccentric.
Yeah, eccentric's good because he's not exactly like a nerdy guy, but he's not a nerdy guy. Do you know what I mean? He's, I don't know, he seems sweet though. I like Kirk.
Yeah, me too. I've always really liked Kirk. He's a true eccentric bloke, you know.
That's him. I think we all know someone a bit like Kirk. And if we don't, we should.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like one of my friends is a bit of a Kirk, but I also feel like he's also a bit of a Carl Pilkington as well, you know. Like
I don't really know him. I know who he is, but I've not really seen any of his stuff.
You've got to watch some Carl Pilkington. Like he's brilliant. He's brilliant. It's the old podcast called The Ricky Gervais Show, but like they're old. They're like 15 or so years old, and they're good. It's him, Stephen Merchant, Ricky Gervais, and Carl's the funniest.
Oh yeah, I remember when that first came out.
Yeah,
and then they like weirdly put it on TV, didn't they?
Yeah, they animated it so it could go on TV.
Yeah, that's interesting time in TV.
Yeah, Carl Pilkington was definitely the funniest, but I don't think Ricky Gervais is all that anyway. So I think Carl Pilkington is the best thing that Ricky Gervais has ever done. But I also, very controversially, I think that the US office is better than the UK office. Oh, the UK office is more realistic. No, the UK office is a bit like, there are some funny moments, but it's just a bit like, ugh, you know.
It's depressing. I can't deal with it.
Yeah, and it's not the best of like British jokes and TV. The best of British jokes and TV is the IT crowd. Duh. Like
that's what I was gonna say.
That's way funnier. Are you kidding? Yeah. Richard Ayoade, way funnier than David Brent. Like, get out.
And I'd say Black Books as well. But like some people say that's better than the IT crowd, but I feel it's like the precursor to it. Like we had that so we could get IT crowd.
I've watched Black Books, but I have to admit, I watched like a few seasons of it.
Mm.
Because there's only like 8 episodes or
Yeah.
whatever. I have to preface by saying that because otherwise the next thing's going to sound really bad. I was on drugs the whole time when I watched it, so I don't remember it. And I was on like some weird drugs as well. They weren't like good old fashioned drugs. They were like weird, the ones that are like kind of legal but not legal because they're plant food or whatever. Like it was just I spent a whole weekend on this stuff, like watching Black Book, so I don't remember any of it.
Oh God, did you not know there's actually like 20 episodes a season and 10 seasons?
Can you imagine? Imagine I was just there for a week, actually, just a week, just off my head. Oh, so I need to watch it. I think it's something that I would like.
Yeah. Do
You
you
know,
remember oh, what was the hospital one? Was
what
it
hospital one?
Green is it Green Wing? I want to
Oh,
say?
no, I didn't watch
Was
any of
that
those. But
because
I thought that
I
was
really liked
American.
you might be thinking of West Wing.
Oh God, I don't know. Green
Yeah.
Wing, Green Wing. Yes, UK. It's I recognize these people.
Yeah.
Um, no, I've never watched it though.
Yeah, it was really good. I really liked the guy who played Mac. I always had a bit of a crush on him when I was younger. And Tamsin, how do you say her surname? Greg?
Greg.
Yeah, I really like her. Like everything I've seen her in, she's really great
Mm,
in it. Like she's brilliant in Tamara Drew. Have you seen that?
mm,
It's a film, really good, very English. It's great.
mm.
She's great in that. What I've not seen Friday Night Dinner. She's great in episodes. I love episodes. I'm trying to think what else she's been in. I'll look on Google.
Yeah, no, I was more of a Mighty Boosh kind of girl. So
Mighty Boosh was great. Loved that. Oh. Mighty Boosh was like it took up most of my teen years being obsessed with that. And Noel Fielding's girlfriend at the time, she had this band called Robots in Disguise, who were like this like
yeah, she
electro band. I
did.
loved them. They were so great. Saw them once at Sheffield. It was like highlight of my teen years. Loved it.
Did you ever see they put it on DVD, the Mighty Boosh live, the live show
Mhm.
that they did. Because I think
I
that was
still
like
got the
even
DVD.
it's even funnier than the actual show.
Oh yeah, it
I
was
think
good.
it's so good.
I was disappointed with their last live show though, the Future Sailors one.
Mm.
I was disappointed with
I
that.
don't think I saw that one because I wasn't, for me it was like season 2 was kind of peak, and then
Yeah.
well no, actually no, I loved all of the times when they were in season 1 was they were in the zoo.
Season
And
one was the
I
zoo,
loved that
season
because
two
I
was the
loved
shop, and season three was
just in a flat, I think. I think they were literally just like in their flat.
yeah, I might Google this.
Because
Yeah, sorry, what were you
I
gonna
loved
say?
in season 1 the what's his name? I can't remember his name in the show. Is his name Bob, the American guy? And he has the little like special recorder thing, and
Yeah.
he doesn't know the names of the animals, so he's like, the hairy man, what the gorilla, and then he's used that conversation. So fucking funny.
uh it's just yeah, it was a good time. It was very like surreal. Um yeah, it was good. I'm just trying sorry, I'm still thinking about like where everything was set now because it's so long
Mm.
since I've seen it.
But then, did you ever watch Noel Fielding's luxury comedy? Because I
I am
tried, but that was too random, kind of for the sake of it.
yeah,
I feel like he needs Julian Barrett to ground him
yeah,
a little
I
bit.
can see that.
Mm.
It yeah, I've only seen like bits of it here and there, but it didn't quite
No, it
grab
wasn't for
my
me.
attention.
Mm.
No. Oh my God, season two, you got the old Greg one, the old Greg
I
episode.
loved that.
Oh, so good.
I
Yeah.
loved old Greg. I just wanted them to actually be together and be happy.
Oh no, okay, so season three was the one in the shop because that's where you get the crack fox. And
The
Eels
eels
wasn't until
person,
season three as
eels.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that was until season three. I thought that was oh no, Hitch was season one. So which
The Hitcher was a recurring character, I think.
did he come back in Eels then? He must
Yes.
have. Yeah. God, it's so long since I've seen these. I do want to watch them again.
Yeah.
Idiot. Okay, that's what I'm doing with my evening after I film today. I got this. It's gonna be great. But yeah, I got this like box set of like all their live tours.
Mm.
And it also had like Mighty Boosh top trumps cards in them. which was
Really?
so cool. Yeah, and all the artwork was done by Noel. It was so good. I still got them. It's so good.
Did you ever get the
Oh,
Mighty Book of
God.
Boosh, which like all
Yes.
the artworks by Noel and stuff? And I found that so funny.
Yeah. I think I also still have that somewhere in my spare room.
They have this like 2-page spread where it's about the acting of Howard Moon because he's an accomplished actor, and it's shown like his different expressions and which each
Yeah.
one represents, but it's the exact same expression he's making every single time. And just and the little poem that he did to Mrs. The lady he was always saying was like cream. It was like your skin like cream, your ear like little curls of cream. Just like nonsense. So good.
Oh, bless. It was brilliant. And it was very like of the time as well. I can't see something
Yeah.
like that necessarily being made now. I feel like now maybe audiences wouldn't get it as much,
Mm, mm.
which is a shame. I don't know. But it was good. It's excellent. Sorry. Anyway, Gilmore Girls.
Gilmore Girls.
We are going
Gilmore
quite off topic today.
Gilmore Girls.
Yeah.
Emily trying to get them the internet without, because I feel like at least with the clothes, no, she didn't ask permission per se, but she rang her to be like da da
Yeah.
da 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 da. But the
But
third
she only
instance of
rang
her.
her to find out her size, her clothing size. If she
Oh
knew
yeah, I
that already,
guess
she wouldn't have phoned, I bet.
she wouldn't have bothered. Yeah, that's the annoying part is the presumption, but I feel like she kind of feels like it's coming from a good place,
Yeah.
even though it is coming from an annoying place. Because I'd be annoyed by it too, but them just trying to
Yeah.
get the internet without them permission,
Yeah.
even though they already have the internet, is a bit
I
too far.
I think it was like the equivalent of like fiber versus broadband today. You
Sure.
know, it
Yeah.
was like whatever it was instead of dial-up, or like broadband instead of dial-up. God, do you remember the days of dial-up?
Not really. I don't really. I think I just what is.
Okay.
Oh no, I'm bleeding.
Oh God, are you okay?
Oh, it was nothing. It was like a
Oh,
tiny spear. It was a tiny spear.
it scared me like that.
I was just scratching my knee, and I was like, "Oh, what's that?" Nice.
Oh, I'm just bleeding. It's fine.
Just casually, another day in the life of me. Um, No, I don't really remember dial-up very well because we didn't get a computer until I was like a home computer until I was about 11 or so. It was quite late when we got a computer. So I'd go around my friends' houses and we'd play on like the Windows 95 ones, and all we'd play is
Yeah.
this little egg hopping game where you have to get the egg to hop, and if you fall, you die. It was kind of like like the Angry Birds of its day.
That's brilliant. My brother got an old secondhand, also Windows 95 computer when he went off to uni. So we
Yeah.
had that in the house for a few months. And we had it when he came home on the holidays as well. So I would have been 8 then. And then we didn't get a family computer until I was maybe 13 or so, I think.
Mm.
But we had some internet before that for my brother for when he came home on the holidays and stuff. But it was always dial up. And there were always arguments because my mum would be like, "Well, you get off the internet. I need to phone your Auntie Josie."
Oh,
And like
wow.
my brother would be like, "No, no, just 5 more minutes, 5 more minutes."
Yeah,
Great times.
yeah, we definitely didn't have that. It was more like it took forever for the computer to do anything. Like you click on the
Yeah.
internet, you have to go away, make a cup of tea, come back, and then the browser actually opens,
Yeah.
you know? Um,
Oh,
and we'd just
that
play all
wasn't the
those,
computer, that was just using Internet Explorer.
yeah, maybe. And I'd go on Newgrounds and play like the Flash games and
Oh,
stuff.
they
I
were
remember I
great.
remember that. I remember that and the
Did you ever
little
play
chat
on
rooms.
Mousebreaker? Mousebreaker were my favorite ones.
No, I don't think so.
They were good. Yeah, I enjoyed them. They had lots of like little like sort of like cycling games where you had to like go up and down these little slopes and you're controlling the speed and stuff. It's like, at the end of like IT class and stuff, sometimes our teachers used to be like, "Okay, you can have 5 minutes to do what you want," and everyone would go to Mousebreaker and like play against each other. It was great.
I remember
Good
playing the,
times.
the only game that really sticks out to mind that me and my friend used to play a lot was you're this obese man trying to lose weight, and then you can go to work and get money, and then you can get like a bicycle, and you could either buy healthy stuff which is more expensive or buy cheeseburgers and put the weight back on, or you could risk it by eating the dodgy pickle in the fridge and either being sick or being did you play that?
Yes! You have just brought back so many memories.
we
Oh my
would we would love playing
God.
this game, and it's like, why? Oh, and you had the goldfish, and you either had to feed the goldfish because if you forgot, the goldfish would die.
You died. But yeah, no, those games. Getting all these memories now. Do you remember do you remember salad fingers?
Yes.
My God, my first driving instructor, who ended up being a little bit creepy, and I had to fire him. He actually taught the guy who made salad fingers how to drive.
Really?
Yeah, he's based here in Leeds, or at
Oh,
least
I
he
didn't know
was a
that.
couple of years back.
Wow.
Yeah, great.
Salad fingers. That was that sure was something.
That was me and my best friend Meg when we were like 11. She got her own computer in her bedroom, so we used to play Sims together and then watch salad fingers videos. It's very cool. We were very cool.
I used to play Age of Empires a lot. That was my thing. I
They
loved
were
Age
good
of
games.
Empires. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, Gilmore Girls again.
Gilmore Girls, yeah.
Lane, Lorelai, and Rory walking back, and Lane's trying to scarf down pizza before going home because her mother bought like a load of tofu, you know, and Lane's complaining about it because obviously, oh, it's bland and blah blah blah. But Mrs. Kim is Korean. Tofu in Asian, I mean, tofu can be made good. Like you just don't know how to cook if you can't cook the tofu very well. It's a sponge. You marinate it, absorbs flavors. You know, and you can change the texture of it. You can do a lot of things with it. Tofu in Asian dishes is great. Like, I think Chinese food is my favorite cuisine. Because of like the stuff that you can do with tofu. Korean as well, love it. Japanese, well, a lot of Japanese is kind of like fish based with like dashi, but if you get like vegan Japanese stuff, it's great. So I don't know why Amy Palladino made Mrs. Kim like this really boring plain chef when she's Korean, like she knows how to cook. Korean food is great. I think Amy Palladino kind of hates people who attempt to be healthy because you've got to be effortlessly thin, right?
Yeah.
Like Rory and Lorelai, even though they eat junk all day, every day, they shouldn't be effortlessly thin. And yet, so I really think that Amy Palladino has this hang up about it because people that are seen to exercise in the series are weird. People who eat healthily are weird and boring. But you can eat pizza and drink coffee all day and be absolutely fine. You know?
Yeah.
Like, because Rory and Lorelai, they don't even. You could argue that they walk around a lot because Lorelai definitely like she's getting her 10K steps, but you can't outwalk a bad diet. You can't. So I don't know. I feel like Amy Palladino has a very big like not like the other because that's where that comes from. This not I'm not like the other girls because I eat pizza and stay beautiful and thin and I'll drink beer sometimes and burp, but I'm cool. Like that whole thing. Do you know what I mean?
I do feel like with Lane though, it's just a bit of like teenage rebellion. You know, she's like,
Oh,
oh
yeah,
no,
sure.
I want junk food, not healthy food. I want pizza on the street, not my mum's cooking, that sort of thing. So I can understand that. I think that's fine. But I do.
Are they back?
I think it was a lorry that beeped
God.
and then made a lot of noise. Sorry. Anyway.
The drama, the sheer amount of drama.
No, I know. So much traffic at the minute. But yeah, no, I think your point about Amy stands. I think you're right. Also, did you notice the like not body shaming, but like the beauty shaming of the receptionist earlier, where like Lorelai was like,
yeah,
see, that's what happens when you go to sleep with your makeup on. I was like, that's a bit unnecessary. Like,
yeah, she's just an older woman, but of course you
yeah.
have to be effortlessly. So who is Amy doing that for? Because the whole "I'm not like the other girls" thing is very much for the male gaze.
Yeah.
You know, like, and sometimes I feel that Lorelai and Laurie, Lorelai and Laurie, Lorelai and Laurie, Lorelai and I can't even talk. Red Laurie, yellow Laurie, Lorelai and Rory
Got
are
her
kind of,
eventually.
yeah, they are a bit like that, you know, like,
Yeah.
oh, we're the cool, pretty girls and we're like, and they're so quirky and all the boys love them and they always get flustered. And no man in the Gilmore Girls universe ever gets over a Gilmore Girl either. You know, like Dean's still hung up about Rory. Jess in the Year in Life is like still kind of in love with Rory, maybe.
There's kind of a bit of an issue of that with Midge in The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. Like every guy she meets just falls helplessly in love with her and wants her and blah 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 and all this sort of thing. But I think they do a little bit better with the kind of beauty standards side of things, because like it is set in the 50s, so beauty standards were different back then, and they definitely do critique it a bit. So at first Midge is stuck in this like day-to-day life where she's got the husband and the kids and a house and all the things that she should have, and she spends her days doing like exercises with her best friend, and she keeps a notebook of measurements of like her waist, her legs, her arms, like all of this, and she's like, I need to stay exactly the same as my wedding day so my husband doesn't leave me, blah blah. And then when she finds out her husband's been cheating on her and leaves her, she has this like whole mental breakdown, falls into the world of comedy, and all of that kind of gets thrown out the window, and her notebook gets replaced by like a notebook for writing jokes and stuff like that. And it's quite nice to see the transition, but at the same time she never loses her like love of clothes and fashion and femininity throughout the show. So it's a little bit more of a balance than in Gilmore Girls, which is nice. It's still not perfect. You can still maybe say Midge is like a bit too shallow, and she definitely has a lot of character flaws, but they are at least called out and critiqued, which I think is better.
And then right at the end of this episode, I noticed that they walked by and Lorelai's like, oh, what do you think of Luke? And she's like, no, you can't date Luke, blah, blah, blah. And Luke sees them, comes outside, changes his sign from open to close, because he was clearly waiting to see if they'd come by for like a little evening pie or coffee or whatever, which, what a hero.
His little thing earlier when he was all jealous that Lorelai got asked out, and I was like, his little face. But I wrote my notes on this and I said, damn it, Rory, you're the reason it took Luke and Lorelai so long to get together. Damn you. Because she's the one who was like, oh no, not Luke. I mean, me, you can't date Luke. But yet she's the reason Luke and Lorelai don't get together for years after that. Because she was into him and he was into her, and they both knew it. And they didn't get together because Rory's
just the worst because she takes after her father, Christopher. And then the final thing I noticed was in the credits, the first name that pops up, director of photography, Teresa Medina. So I think that's where they got the name Max Medina from.
Oh, that
I
makes
noticed
sense.
that.
Good job. Good spotting. Well done.
Cheers, mate. That is it was a bit all over the place, but that's our recap of episode 2 of the Gilmore Girls. So I guess let us know what you guys think.
This is just basically this is basically turning to us ranting about everything we want. With Gilmore Girls, it's like a slight front for it all. It like vaguely structures the conversation.
Kind of a little bit, but I don't know.
But it's fun. Let's do it.
I don't mind that style, so I'd like to see if everyone else minds it or not. If they want us to stay on a track more often, who knows? We'll see. We'll find out.
We will see.
Yes. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Make sure you follow us on Spotify and iTunes. And that's all. Check out Rachel's channel. Check out my channel. Maybe my documentary will be out at this point. Maybe, probably not. That's all, really. See you guys next time. Bye.